In the ocean, there is a place where light does not exist. A world so dark, that even time feels slower. A place where pressure can crush steel, and silence is absolute. This is the abyss. And for centuries, humans believed that nothing complex could survive there. No movement. No predators. No life worth studying. But then, something impossible happened. For the first time in history, scientists didn't just find a creature from the abyss. They recorded it. Alive. The deep sea has always been a graveyard of mysteries. We've pulled up fragments before. Broken bodies. Lifeless specimens. Strange shapes tangled in nets. Creatures that looked less like animals, and more like nightmares. But there was always a problem. They never survived the journey up. The moment they left the crushing depths, their bodies failed. Organs ruptured. Structures collapsed. Cells simply couldn't cope. It was like pulling a balloon from the bottom of the ocean, and watching it explode. So for decades, scientists were left with only one thing. Corpses. And from corpses, you can only learn so much. But then, everything changed. In 2016, during a deep-sea expedition in the Pacific Ocean, a remotely operated vehicle descended into darkness. Past the reach of sunlight. Past the twilight zone. Into a region known as the Hadal Zone, one of the least explored places on Earth. Nearly 8,000 meters down. The pressure here is almost 800 times greater than what we feel at sea level. To put that into perspective, it's like having a fully loaded commercial airplane pressing down on every square meter of your body. Constantly. And yet, something was moving. At first, it looked like a ghost. A faint, pale shape drifting through the black water. Soft. Fragile. Almost translucent. It didn't dart. It didn't hunt. It floated. Like it didn't belong to the rules of life we understand. The cameras adjusted. The lights sharpened. And then, the truth became clear. This wasn't just any deep-sea organism. It was a living snailfish. Now, that might not sound extraordinary. Snailfish are known creatures. They exist in shallower waters. Small. Gelatinous. Almost unremarkable. But this one was different. This one was living at depths where no fish had ever been recorded alive before. Not just surviving. Thriving. And this is where things get strange. To understand why this matters, we need to talk about pressure. Because in the deep ocean, pressure is everything. At extreme depths, pressure doesn't just push on an organism. It invades it. Every cell. Every molecule. Every chemical reaction. Proteins begin to warp. Membranes lose structure. Even DNA struggles to function properly. For most life on Earth, this environment is instantly lethal. But the snailfish had found a way around it. Its body wasn't built like other fish. It had no rigid skeleton. No heavy bones. Instead, it was soft. Flexible. Almost gelatin-like. Imagine trying to crush a jelly. You can press it. Deform it. Twist it. But it doesn't shatter. It adapts. That's exactly what this creature does. Rather than resisting the pressure, it becomes one with it. But the real reason it survives is far more surprising. Inside its cells is a chemical called TMAO. Trimethylamine N-oxide. A molecule that acts like a biological shield. It stabilizes proteins. Prevents them from collapsing under pressure. Keeps cellular machinery running, even when physics says it shouldn't. Think of it like antifreeze for life itself. Without it, survival here would be impossible. But there's a limit. And scientists know this. Because the deeper you go, the more TMAO you need. And at a certain point, you can't produce enough of it. It becomes chemically impossible.
Which raises a chilling question. If this fish is already at the edge of survivability, what lies beyond? But that's not even the weirdest part. Because when scientists observed the snailfish more closely, they noticed something unexpected. It wasn't alone. The abyss wasn't empty. Tiny crustaceans drifted nearby. Amphipods. Small, shrimp-like creatures. They moved in slow, deliberate motions. And the snailfish followed them. Not aggressively. Not like a predator we're used to. But with quiet precision. Then suddenly, it struck. Fast. Efficient. Silent. In a place where energy is scarce. Every movement matters. Every hunt must succeed. Because failure here isn't just hunger. It's death. But this raises another mystery. How does a predator function, in complete darkness? There is no sunlight. No shadows. No clear visual cues. So how does it find its prey? The answer lies in senses we barely understand. The snailfish likely uses a lateral line system. A network of sensors that detect vibrations in the water. Every tiny movement. Every shift in current. Imagine being able to feel the presence of something, without seeing it. Like sensing footsteps in the dark, through the floor. That's how it hunts. But even that might not be enough. Because in the abyss, signals are faint. Movements are slow. Everything is reduced. So the snailfish may also rely on chemical detection. Sensing traces of life in the water. Following invisible trails. Like a bloodhound, in total darkness. And yet, despite all these adaptations, this creature is living on the edge. Because the deeper you go, the harsher the rules become. At extreme depths, even food is rare. There are no plants. No sunlight to power photosynthesis. Everything that lives here depends on what falls from above. Dead organisms. Organic debris. A constant, slow rain known as marine snow. But it's not enough to sustain large ecosystems. Which means every predator is also a scavenger. Every opportunity must be taken. And this is where things become unsettling. Because the snailfish isn't just surviving in isolation. It's part of a fragile, hidden network. An ecosystem so delicate that even small changes could collapse it entirely. But the real mystery isn't just how it lives. It's why it lives here at all. Why evolve to survive in a place so extreme? So unforgiving? So close to the absolute limits of biology? The answer might lie in competition. In the shallow ocean. Life is everywhere. Predators. Rivals. Constant threats. But in the abyss, there is space. Opportunity. A world with fewer competitors. If you can survive the conditions, you inherit the depths. And that might be exactly what this creature has done. It has pushed life to its absolute boundary. But scientists soon realized something even more disturbing. Because this sighting wasn't just a discovery. It was a warning. Because if this fish exists at the very edge of survivability, then just beyond it, there may be a hard limit. A depth where complex life simply cannot exist. A final boundary between life and lifelessness. But where exactly is that line? And what happens if something crosses it? Because the deeper we explore, the more we realize something unsettling. The abyss is not empty. It is not dead. It is watching. Waiting. And it may be hiding far more than we are prepared to understand.
The deeper we go, the more the ocean begins to feel unfamiliar. Not just dark. Not just cold. But alien. Like a place that was never meant to be seen. And yet, we kept descending. Because once scientists recorded the snailfish, they couldn't stop asking the same question. What else is down there? At first, the answer came in fragments. Blurry shapes. Unclear movements at the edge of the camera's light. Things that appeared, and vanished just as quickly. It was as if the abyss itself was hiding something. But this is where things get strange. Because the deeper cameras went, the less predictable life became. In most ecosystems, there are patterns. Clear food chains. Recognizable behaviors. But in the hadal zone, those rules begin to break. Predators behave like scavengers. Scavengers behave like opportunists. And sometimes, creatures don't behave like anything we've ever seen before. Take movement, for example. In shallow waters, speed is survival. Fast hunters. Faster escapes. But down here, speed is expensive. Energy is rare. Every movement must be calculated. Which is why many deep-sea creatures move like ghosts. Slow. Deliberate. Almost mechanical. Like time itself has been stretched. And yet, occasionally, something breaks that rule. Something moves fast. Too fast. A sudden burst of motion in an otherwise frozen world. And then, stillness again. It's the kind of behavior that makes scientists pause. Because in a place defined by conservation, why would anything waste energy like that? The answer reveals something deeper. Because in the abyss, opportunities don't last. Food appears suddenly. And disappears just as quickly. A dead organism falls from above. And within minutes, it's surrounded. Consumed. Gone. So when the moment comes, you don't hesitate. You act. And that brings us back to the snailfish. Because what scientists discovered next changed everything. When they analyzed extended footage, they noticed something subtle. The snailfish weren't just surviving individually. They were appearing, repeatedly. Different individuals. Same depth. Same extreme conditions. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't a lost animal drifting too far. This was a population. A stable presence. Life had established itself here. At nearly the deepest limits of the ocean. And that's not even the weirdest part. Because the existence of a population means one thing. Reproduction. Think about that for a moment. In a place with crushing pressure. Near freezing temperatures. And almost no food. These creatures are not just living. They are reproducing. Raising new generations. Continuing a lineage. But how? Reproduction in the deep sea is one of the least understood processes in biology. Because everything we know about life suggests it shouldn't work here. In most ecosystems, reproduction relies on timing. Seasons. Signals. Abundance of food. But in the abyss, there are no seasons. No sunlight cycles. No predictable rhythms. Just darkness. Endless and unchanging. So instead, life adapts. Some deep-sea creatures produce fewer offspring. But invest more energy into each one. Others release eggs that drift. Carried by currents we barely understand. And some may rely on encounters so rare that reproduction becomes a game of chance. For the snailfish, scientists believe it lays eggs in protected spaces. Possibly near the seafloor. Possibly even attached to other organisms. Sheltered from currents. Hidden from predators. Because even in the abyss, nothing is truly safe. And this is where the mystery deepens. Because if there are predators, there must be something even lower in the food chain. The amphipods provide one answer. Small. Abundant. Resilient. They feed on the constant rain of organic material. Breaking it down. Recycling it. Turning death back into life. But the real system is far more complex. Because the abyss is not isolated. It is connected to everything above it.